Yamashita Kazuo, an average Japanese salaryman for Nogi Group, witnesses a street fight in an alley between two mysterious fighters while he walks down the street. All Yamashita anticipates Kamada, being altogether bigger than Tokita, to completely overcome Tokita, yet Tokita is quick to such an extent that he easily evades Kamada's assaults. Tokita easily batters Kamada and dislocates his shoulder when Kamada tries to retaliate, finishing Kamada off with several kicks to the face after Kamada encourages him to attack directly. In amazement, Yamashita asks Tokita's name, yet when Tokita asks after Yamashita's name and offers to battle, Yamashita gives his name yet declines. Bothered up by the experience, Yamashita rapidly heads to a house of ill repute to deliver his repressed energy, something he doesn't typically do. The battle caused him to feel invigorated, and when he is by and by reproved by his supervisor at Yogi Distributions for being underneath standard, he wants to battle like Tokita to be treated with deference. They are intruded on by the appearance of the president nonetheless, who asks after Yamashita explicitly, and he is brought to the executive Nogi Hideki. There, Nogi questions Yamashita on compromise, prior to sending off into a clarification of Kengan affiliation's set of experiences of utilizing brutality to do as such, ultimately bringing about one-on-one matches. Although Yamashita initially doubts it, Nogi has given Yamashita the job of being Tokita's caretaker, or manager. Nogi recently hired Tokita to replace Kamada, their previous fighter. In the city, Yamashita timidly endeavors to deter Tokita from battling, taking into account its wrongdoing. Yet Tokita simply requests to get food, all things considered. At his home, Yamashita talks about his circumstance throughout everyday life. He is 56 years of age and has worked with Nogi Distributions for a very long time. Yet his most seasoned child, Yamashita Kenzo, is 25 and never leaves his room. His better half deserted him a decade prior, and the house he possesses still has 15 years left to pay. Showing up at the flimsy, deserted house in the forest where Tokita lives, Yamashita is stunned to find him shrouded in blood. In fact, it was from a hog that Tokita had killed, preparing it for food. Ivan Karayev, a Russian, enters the mansion while Tokita is eating. He challenges Tokita to a fight. Tokita Ohma is the opponent in the fight between Russian kickboxer Ivan Karayev. As Ivan goes for a high kick, Tokita evades and kicks Ivan in his uncovered crotch, bringing down him. His companion moves forward and kills Ivan by opening an artery with his fingertips. The fight begins as Tokita and Lihito warm up in the ring with rain pouring down on their heads. Neither one of the warriors moves nonetheless, proceeding to gaze at one another, moving their weight and equilibrium while searching for an opening as the group whines at the absence of activity. Out of nowhere, the two of them move, Tokita handling the principal punch, however Lihito opposing the quickly pass up, squeezing his head forward, denying it of force. Tokita ultimately gains the advantage, then takes Lihito to the ground. However, at that point Lihito cuts Tokita's arm and chest with his fingernails, represent considerable authority in his razor's edge capacity because of his supernatural squeezing strength, and gets once again into the battle. The battle resumes, and Lihito scores a few cuts on Tokita, Tokita in any case resisting the urge to panic in spite of expanding blood misfortune. Lihito presses the benefit, and Tokita lands a shocking kick to Lihito, thumping him to the ground once more. However, this time Tokita doesn't progress. Lihito taunts him, saying he snatched Tokita's leg as he kicked, and cut him once more. Tokita makes fun of Lihito by stating that real heroes rarely speak. He professes to have found a counter to Lihito, just being mindful in the event of extra slyness, involving the discussion as a potential chance to surround him, as Lihito becomes startled. Yoshitake Yoshiro shouts to take the completing blow, and as Lihito strikes, Tokita blocks it with a charitable grasp, having kept Lihito from acquiring speed increase to the point of appropriately cutting. Squeezing the benefit, Tokita disturbs Lihito's progression of force and indeed sends him to the ground, this time getting done with a foot to the face, winning. Kade questions why that would be sufficient, thinking about that he could bite the dust assuming he loses, to which he answers that there is basically no chance of that event, despite the fact that Tokita thinks inside that he tries to overcome an old colleague, Kiryu Setsuna. At the Ku Ladies College, where Kengan affiliation part Ku training gathering dwells, Kiryu has crushed every one of their individuals trying to enter the Kengan matches to go up against Tokita. Soryu and Shion, executive of Ku, acknowledges him as a warrior. As a final test, Nogi organizes another fight against a 57-streak winner. In an underground parking lot, Tokita gets ready to fight Gandai competitor Sekibayashi Jun, a large man. Tokita starts battling quickly in spite of Sekibayashi needing to talk. However, Tokita's blows have little impact because of Sekibayashi's enormous size. Sekibayashi ultimately handles an overwhelming kick, sending Tokita into a vehicle. Sekibayashi keeps hitting the oblivious Tokita. However, when a random person says he has lost, Yamashita Kazuo gets his shirt and requests he take it back, hollering that Tokita basically can't lose. As Sekibayashi is going to break Tokita, he winds up in a room lit with candles and blows them out. He unexpectedly rises, having broken Sekibayashi's fingers, and bounces to the side, apparently had. He starts fighting in a way that isn't his usual way, pounding Sekibayashi with a steady stream of blows as he moves forward. Sekibayashi attempts to get Tokita, yet he evades and repels with a kick, sending Sekibayashi faltering in reverse. Tokita keeps on wrecking Sekibayashi as two novices, Wakatsuki Takeshi and Imai Cosmo, remark on Tokita's expansion in rotational power. Yet Sekibayashi basically returns, stunning Tokita with two huge blows, until Tokita lurches forward to meet Sekibayashi's approaching rush, striking him in the windpipe and overcoming Sekibayashi. Toward the finish of the match, the spectator offers to have a beverage with Yamashita, while executive Katahara Metsudo, overseer of Dainippon Bank, shows up, dazzled by the outcomes. Shikano then consents to movement for a substitution of the director's post, and having arrived at 50, Metsudo proclaims a Kengan demolition competition. Because Nogi Hideki decided not to have Tokita fight for the company in the upcoming Kengan Annihilation tournament, Tokita Ohma chokes Nogi Hideki. Nogi gets free and then explains the situation. While Tokita can't battle for Nogi, he approves of discovering some way into the competition. He provides Yamashita Kazuo with a credit of 100 million yen to enter Tokita into informal matches, so Yamashita can turn into a representative of the Kengan affiliation, permitting Tokita to contend in the competition. Yamashita endeavors to retreat, yet is forced by Tokita into tolerating. Nabe Misao is set to be the restricting organization, with his warrior Yokota Masayasu. Nabe normally bets his Kengan affiliation participation against crude money to make decent amounts. In an underground water passage, the Yokota and Tokita plan to battle, and Tokita routs Yokota in a solitary punch. Yamashita then, at that point, turns into a Kengan affiliation part, and his child Yamashita Kenzo becomes mindful of it. Ota Masahiko is called by Kenzo, the head of their enterprise, and tells him that they will enter a warrior in the destruction competition from the Kure family. In addition, Ohya Ken invites Yamashita Kazuo out for a drink, and informs him of the 500 billion yen entry fee for the tournament, in which he is also competing as CEO of Jinokuniya Bookstore, and faces Himuro Ryo as his opponent. Tokita starts to recover and train again. He remembers his lord and receptive dad, who was killed by Taira Genzan. Out of nowhere, Genzan's disciple, Kiryu Setsuna, shows up above Tokita, saying that he, when all is said and done, killed Genzan, and that Tokita ought to get his payback out on him, all things being equal. Tokita scolds him, describing him as a liar, and stating that he only sought Genzan to demonstrate that he was superior to Nico, and that he will do just as well by crushing Kiryu in the tournament. This becomes interesting for Kiryu. Matsui Hiroshi, of Nogi Distributions, is angry that Yamashita Kazuo is demanding too much for his contract. Showing up at the boats to the Kengan destruction competition, Yamashita and numerous others are shipped off on a boat instead of a luxury transport. They area L there for the starter fight royale battle to enter the tournament. Tokita Ohma, on the other hand, becomes ensnared in the battle royale area when Akiyama Kaide delivers some water to her. As she was waylaid by an inquiry from Tokita, she demands he safeguard her until Lihito shows up. Lihito has significantly improved his razor's edge, and when he notices Kaide, he decides to defend her as well. Along the way, he easily defeats a fighter without needing to build momentum. Tokita wants to fight Lihito alone, but Lihito decides to fight Tokita so they can both make it to the main tournament and fight there. Lihito wants revenge for their last fight. Together, the two of them shield Kaide and effectively fight off the swarm of competitors. Their consideration is attracted to Jerry Tyson notwithstanding, as he divides his direction through competitors. Having figured out how to emulate projectiles and rockets, the Detroit local warrior surges along at high rates and thumps them to the side in spite of the fact that Tokita persistently evades his surges. Tokita in the long run diverts Jerry into a wall, yet he simply pushes off of it to return considerably quicker. In any case, this spots him in direction to hit Kaide, thus he attempts to stop himself. To block any impact and deflect Jerry away, Tokita uses Adamantine Kata, a skill from the Nico style that he learned from Tokita Nico, to tighten all of his muscles before impact. In the meantime, Sawada Keizaburo scares Lihito until it is uncovered that there are just 5 competitors left, all of which to happen to the primary competition, albeit just 15 minutes had passed. Sawada and Lihito, Tokita, Karo Yoshinari, and Hasad continue on in the tournament. A short time later, Yamashita is distressed that he didn't make a bet, as every one individual he thought would win wound up winning, and he might have taken care of his obligation had he bet. Kiryu Setsuna is thrilled that Tokita has survived so that they can fight from the main ship through his binoculars. Katahara Metsudo then invites the 5 victors to the primary competition. Hasad attempts to go after Katahara, however, is sent off of the boat by his guardian Yodo, arriving in the water and being launched out from the competition. Nogi Hideki shows up with Hatsumi-sen to praise Tokita Ohma on his triumph. However, Tokita repels Nogi, saying he doesn't require him any longer, as he procured his own particular manner into the competition. Simultaneously, Lihito is seen badgering Akiyama Kaede for her telephone number, who battles to deter Lihito and send him back to his manager. As president of his own SF Cold Storage Corporation and fighter, Lihito then responds that he is his employer. As of now, it is uncovered that Nogi set up a few auxiliary partnerships, similar as Yamashita Exchanging Organization. In their auxiliary agreements are prerequisites that, should their contender win in a Kengan demolition competition, that organization will be expected to choose Nogi as the new Kengan affiliation executive. As Yamashita strolls around, he sees a few groups crouched around Kaneda Swakichi, a Japanese chess player betting with 10,000 yen passage charges and 100,000 yen returns. Would it be advisable for anybody routs him? Oyaken requests that Yamashita attempt, as he likewise lost to Kaneda, and Yamashita winds up losing multiple times in succession. Chiba Takayuki searches in on the chess games, however, before he can attempt himself, Kengan affiliation executive Katahara Metsudo shows up. He reports that in 27 hours they will show up at the front line and begin the contender enlistment, authoritatively entering them into the Kengan demolition competition, but by rule, no contenders might battle each other on the voyage transport. Soryuin Shion, director of Kou, chats with Nogi in regards to the standard. The two of them concur that there are numerous aggressive individuals on board who might defy said norm, however. When Tokita sees their discussion, she makes a beeline for him. She specifies her contender Kiryu Setsuna having a strong fascination with him, and Tokita gets her caller to request to know where Kiryu is. She accepts the emphaticness as sweet talk until Lihito removes Tokita from her, and she advises Tokita to be entirely ready to overcome Kiryu. Yodo, on the other hand, caused some of Hasad's blood to splash onto Tokita when he kicked him, which is why Kiryu is currently murdering Yodo. In a luxurious corridor on the boat, Kaneda Swakichi requests that Ken trade Himuro Ryo for him as the warrior for Jinokuniya Bookshop, referring to a proviso in Katahara's standard against rivals battling. As a non-contender, Kaneda can battle Himuro for the position, subsequently turning into a contender solely after the battle is finished, and thusly not disrupting the norm. Himuro acknowledges the demand, and in spite of the fact that Kaneda makes courteous consolations of fair play, Himuro rapidly smacks him upside the head mid-discourse, proposing to repeal his position provided that Kaneda can endure one moment. The battle starts vigorously, with Kaneda attempting to dissect the battle, yet is again smacked upside the head while thinking. Since Kaneda is aware of Himuro's particular Jeet Kune Do fighting form, he is able to evade Himuro's attacks for a longer period of time before Himuro knees him in the stomach. Kaneda breakdowns, apparently crushed, until he pops back up and lands a blow on Himuro. Himuro surges back in, however Kaneda obstructs enough of his assaults until taking an opening to hit him once more, sending him to his knees. Kaneda figures out how to get his arm into a lock, and uses his energy to contort and break his arm. Himuro, on the other hand, doesn't give up and starts fighting with one hand. However, Kaneda quickly blocks each strike and kicks Himuro in the broken arm. Kaneda evades a kick from Himuro, and Ken understands that Kaneda is in a real sense foreseeing everything Himuro might do, and starting his evades before they even start, similarly as in chess. Himuro won't surrender regardless of Kaneda's insults to withdraw, and in one last rush from Himuro, Kaneda slips around him and sends his head crashing to the ground. Docilely, Himuro attempts to connect, yet Kaneda completes him with various stepping kicks to the face until he drops. Ken, albeit stunned at how far Kaneda went, is in any case satisfied to make Kaneda his new rival. On an outside deck, Lihito and Tokita both worry that non-competitors might take advantage of the loophole and attack them at random, but Tokita is unconcerned. However, as they converse in the engine room, Wakatsuki Takeshi and Imai Cosmo are indeed the targets of dishonest non-competitors looking to take their places. Despite being completely bored, Imai is happy about the challenge and gets ready to fight. The tournament fighters and fighters led by Hayami Katsumasa battle to ensure their choice for chairman is the winner. After defeating opponents, Hayami informs them they have 6 slots in the tournament and will be fine. Keide Akiyama scolds Rihido for losing his possessions to the casino and accuses Tokita Ohma of being a womanizer. A hooded fighter attacks Yamashita Kazuo, but Tokita manages to get him out of the way. Rihido tries to attack Tokita, but they dodge and evade him. Tokita proposes to him, but Tokita runs away. Reiki and Hollis Kura retrieve Carla, who introduces herself as Kura Carla and proposes to him. Tokita is confused and informs his men to eliminate Tokita the next time he gets close to Carla. The ship arrives and they draw their pairings for the tournament. Yamashita is surprised to see Oya-ken working with Hayami, and Nogi has a serious look on his face. Kurayoshi warns Yamashita about his group's disbandment if he loses the tournament, but he is impressed by his willingness to put up all of his possessions as collateral for the loan. The episode concludes with several fighters exclaiming their readiness for the tournament. Everyone is getting hyped for the upcoming fights. In the Kengan tournament arena, Yamashita Kazuo is amazed by the energy of the crowd. Imai Cosmo, a troublemaker, recalls a fight where he was knocked out by a Yakuza. He later learns that his coach, Kureishi Mitsuyo, offered to teach him. Cosmo's coach, Nishihanji Akira, reminds him to forfeit if the match becomes too dangerous. The fight begins against Adam Dudley and Cosmo, who both try to dominate. Adam, who used to work in brawl prevention and ice hockey, is able to knock people out with just a swing of his fist. Cosmo decides to beat Adam with his speed and uses zone activate and high stick shot to decide the match. Adam lands powerful hits on Cosmo, smashing him into the ground and continuing to hit him in the head. The referee interrupts the match and Adam sees himself unconscious in a triangle choke. Cosmo is declared the winner of the match. He leaves the arena and is met by Nishihanji, who offers him rest and food but ends up catching him as he falls. In the Himalayas mountains, Haru lived with Kono Akio from Japan. Akoya Seishu, representing Wakasa Life Insurance, was invited to join him in a fight. Haruo attacked Akoya, but Akoya deflected his attacks, leading to Haruo attacking again. Akoya deflected Haruo's arm, causing him to attack again. Akoya then kicked Haruo's knee, knocking him unconscious. Haruo re-attacked Akoya, but he was knocked unconscious. Akoya's fighting spirit remained, and Haruo's speed increased. Akoya's knee gave out, giving Akoya an opening to attack Haruo. Akoya was declared the winner, and Shunka apologized for the mistake. Akoya decided to give her one last chance, allowing her to fight without her. Kure Fusui and Kura Henzo are at a Kengan match where Kura Ryan represents Undermount Inc. and Yamashita. Kenzo is absent. Ota Masahiko panics and Rihido challenges Ryan to a fight. Ryan and Mokichi Robinson, representing Centauri, engage in a match where Ryan uses his full power and Mokichi uses modern boxing-esque techniques called Baritsu. Ryan uses his secret technique Release to turn Mokichi into a purplish color and throws Mokichi into a chokehold. Mokichi experiences a flashback to his youth, where his father taught him Baritsu but left him at 14. After his father's death, he was introduced to his half-sister Elena, who taught him the meaning of family. Mokichi is able to break out of the stranglehold and engage in another attack, with Rayan landing a powerful knee to his stomach. Elena begs for Moki to win, but he is blocked by a punch to the face. Rayan grabs Mokichi by the neck, killing him and winning the match. Tokita Ohma, representing Yamashita Corporation, faces Inaba Ryo, representing Panasonic Corporation, in a match. Yamashita is offered 10 Panasonic TVs by Panasonic's president, Yurita Tsukizo, to test his strength and determine his future. Yamashita is not worried about losing the TVs, as it would be a drop in the bucket compared to the debt he has taken on for the tournament. However, Yurita is speaking in Kagan code words, meaning he was offering a 10% share of Panasonic, which would cost him 280 billion yen if he loses. Tokita uses his Nico style to hit Inaba, using his hair as a whip to slash Tokita's chest. Inaba wraps his hair around Tokita's eyes, neck, and wrists, making him a worthy opponent. Tokita lands a powerful punch, breaking one of Inaba's fingers and hitting all of his major organs. Inaba tries a final kick, but Tokita counters it with an uppercut, a power kick to the side of Inaba's head, and a stomp on his face. Inaba loses consciousness and loses the match. In an operating theater, Hanafusa Hajime completes surgery on Mokichi Robinson and brings him back to life. Togawa Yoshiko, a fighter for murder music, is threatened by Nikaido Ren, a fighter for the Byakuya Shimbun Company. Meguro Masaki from Umichi Securities challenges Swada and Ren, but Masaki wins. Yamashita and Tokita go to a bar to get food, and a newsflash alerts them that Swada was attacked by surprise. Yamashita worries about Tokita being attacked, but Tokita isn't worried. During a fight, Masaki is attacked by Muteba, who crushes his testicles and releases his mount. Masaki then charges Muteba, who kicks him in the head, breaks his arm, and performs a jab on Masaki's throat. Muteba then hits Masaki's head, neck, and brain, causing immense blood loss. In the 8th match, Takeru Kyozan and Jun Sekibayashi, representing Magatanyan and Gondai respectively, face off in a match. Takeru uses a reversed hairstyle to break rules and get under Takeru's skin, while Jun tries to prove pro wrestling is superior to sumo. They engage in a flurry of relentless blows, with Akira hoping Cosmo will learn from Jun's fighting style. Takeru stuns Jun with kicks, a technique not found in sumo. Jun questions if Takeru doesn't love sumo, but he doesn't have the right to reject it yet. Jun redirects the attack, crippling Takeru and resulting in his loss. Haruo becomes a pupil of Jun, wishing to become better. Rihido promises Sawada he will avenge him, despite Sawada's reluctance to fight for him. Cosmo and Adam promise a rematch soon, but Cosmo struggles with his battle with Adam and needs painkillers. Saw Pang Yoroizuka, representing Village of Dawn, is determined to win. Reno and Rei, who are friends, become friends despite Reian's hospitalization. Ohma, who mentally fights opponents, awakens from his dream with a nosebleed and bleeding from other orifices. He believes his techniques have not improved, and that using advance against stronger opponents is not its purpose. Ohma wakes up with no drive or concern for his physical well-being, and Carla raves about Ohma to Elena. Kiryu, who doesn't blame Carla for her infatuation with Ohma, is determined to make Ohma his. In Block C, Saw Pang and Yoshinari Karo enter the ring, both representing Ajiro Fisheries. Karo, a self-proclaimed rival, is initially hesitant to fight, but he retaliates with a direct hit to Saw Pang's spinal cord. Saw Pang recovers quickly, but Karo continues to fight, using his unnatural balance as a fisherman. Karo's love for combat and his vendetta against Toyo Electric Power make them head-to-head. Saw Pang is declared victor, and Ajiro flees. Matsuda and Kiryu approach Kazuo, who appears and exclaims her love for Maki. Matsuda and Honnold reveal their love stories, and Maki is revealed to be one of the fighters. Ren gets ready for his fight up straight away, and he addresses the Byakuya Shimbun organization. Kiryu debuts, addressing Kuu's schooling gathering. Ren explored Kiryu ahead of time, feeling sure his fight style will win over Kiryu's. He takes the primary action, handling a brush on Kiryu's cheek sufficiently sharp to draw blood. Because Ren left him scarred, Kiryu must pay with his life because he views himself as an offering to Ohma. He overpowers Ren easily, rattling Ren as he accepted he was quicker. Kiryu offers Ren an opportunity to give up so his life might be saved. In any case, Kiryu cares nothing in the event that he endures the match. Kiryu inquires as to whether he knows there are two sorts of individuals, ones that merit bliss and ones who don't. Regrettably, utilizing spellbinding on Kiryu awakens something inside him that has now dominated. He inquires whether Ren will commit his sin. Kiryu pantomimes blowing a kiss to Ohma prior to leaving the ring. Rihido enters and fights a new enemy. He fights in the Kaiwan style, which is similar to the Kure family's style of assassination. Kuroki simply diverts Rihido's attention, making fun of Rihido and appearing unbothered by the latter's attempts to fight. He repeatedly shows Rihido that if he continued to strike, Rihido would have already been defeated 4 times. Rihido is burnt out on being peered down on, and lastly handles a cut on Kuroki. Kuroki starts to truly take Rihido. Sawada watches from the clinic room, recollecting when he initially met Rihido when they were teens. They fought over high school pack regions, and it has advanced into their adulthood. He will not excuse Rihido assuming that he loses to anybody before Sawada can overcome him. As predicted by his moniker, Devil's Lance, Kuroki tears through Rihido with his fingers. Rihido sees his general surroundings as quiet, slow, and clear. He uses this to charge Kuroki, but he loses consciousness. He stirs, welcomed by Naoya in a different room from the battling ring. He pardons himself, crying alone in the passage by his mind-boggling route. Kazuo shares his interest about Sen's conceivable misfortune with Ohma. However, Ohma puts that Sen just has to obtusely win. Addressing Yoshitake Land enters Takayuki Chiba, taking on the appearance of an older man and transformed into his actual structure before Sen. Sen scoffs at Chiba, so Chiba displays his capabilities by shifting into Jiaolang and Naoya. He explains that he has 24 fighters memorized to shift into. Chiba takes the stance of Andrews Filho and shifts into various fighters while barraging Sen. He makes the mistake of choosing an Aikido-style fighter, which Sen finishes off with ease. Yoshitake confronts Nogi. At the other end is the representative of Jewel Communications is Yohei Bando. Kazuo recalls when he first saw on the news that Yohei was arrested. His eyes haven't changed in the slightest despite his overall appearance being completely different. Yohei is reluctant to fight Hajime, as he appears to be young and frail. Hajime finds himself fascinated with how his strikes are not crippling Yohei, wondering if the density of his muscles prevents deep damage. He strikes Yohei's vertebrae only to draw his fingers back, snapped in half. Hajime hypothesizes that Yohei must be hyper-flexible, which Yohei displays as true by contorting his body in several unnatural directions. Yohei wins by snapping Hajime's neck completely. He reassures his employer that Yohei should be dead any minute, according to the lethal blood infection he coated his blades with when attacking Yohei. Gaolang has started his match against the agent of Jinokuniya bookshop, Suekichi Kaneda. Despite their rivalry for the chairman, Kazuo and Ken have drinks together prior to the fight. Gaolang views Kaneda as an unremarkable rival. Kaneda moves in first, getting a few hits from Gaolang. He can follow Gaolang's, much not normal for others before him. He can try out the waters and endeavor to divert and avoid Gaolang's offense. He supports negligible harm caused per influence by uprooting the blows, just comparable to the strength constrained upon him. Kaneda collapses after taking a direct blow to the gut. As Gaolang leaves, he believes Kaneda to be all the more an imposing rival as opposed to expected. Yet again, Kaneda ascends to his feet and compels Gaolang to view their battle in a serious way, as Kaneda knows he is feeble, yet expects to areas of strength for B. Kaneda can avoid the vast majority of Gaolang's assaults, taking the 10th to the cheek and slamming it into the ground. Gaolang continues to the second round as victor, taking into account Kaneda, a companion produced in the fight. Ryo tells Ohma and Kaidi how Kaneda used a mixed drink of agony pills and nerve receptor invalidating infusions to adapt to his actual sickness. He appreciates Kaneda's capacity to adjust his typical aggravation limit to investigate rivals more grounded than him, so he may decisively overcome them. He goes on to say that if he were a woman, he would kiss Kaneda. Kazuo gives his sympathies to Ken's misfortune in the fight. Ken consoles Kazuo, he still profited from entering alone. The crowd is hyped up to see Fang's entrance as the final stage match begins. Naoya, addressing Muji Telecom Company, is matched against him, sure that he will win. Tooth enters, addressing Dynapan Bank. Metsudo watches from a higher place, this match being the one he has hung tight for. Naoya chats with Tooth by calling him a last chief, however the reference flies right by Tooth and poses strict inquiries about the last manager, as though he is a genuine individual. Naoya takes the defensive side, while Fang shifts to the offensive. The strain between the two is perfect to the point that even the ref is perspiring. Indeed, even obstructed, each hit Tooth conveys causes extreme harm. Fortunately for Naoya, he is sufficiently able to take one of Tooth's hits and effectively pin him to the ground. Naoya has a background marked by battling various styles and succeeding at them, yet not excess in that frame of mind for a really long time. Because of his involvement with wrestling, he views hooking strategies as fundamental to acquiring influence in MMA. Naoya and Tooth are trading holds of strength on the ground, parting from locks and landing blows on each other similarly. Naoya barrels clenched hands down onto Tooth's gatekeeper, viewing Tooth's absence of obstruction as dubious. Tooth sends Naoya taking off of him with his hips, to which Metsudo remarks that the time has come to observe his actual power. A smile breaks out all over as he shouts he has seen Naoya's strategies, and that it is all over for him. Yet Naoya assumes responsibility for this second to land a toss on Tooth's sanctuary. He floods Tooth without permitting him to respond, his assaults moving from catches, tosses, and blows without design. Notwithstanding Tooth being better than Naoya, the ability Naoya has may simply furnish him with the resources to win. Naoya conveys a deadly kick, however Tooth ascends again in twisted entertainment, having made do because of his capacity to loosen up every one of the muscles in his body to scatter the shock. Tooth answers each shift of assault Naoya makes reflexively, in the middle of between apparently excessively short for expectation. Tooth takes Naoya in a midsection to stomach suplex and stops prior to polishing Naoya off. He says thanks to Naoya for making him more grounded and recovers to leave as the champ. Naoya rises and shines in an emergency clinic bed, unfit to understand how he was to beat somebody that could develop during the fight. Fang has a pattern of destroying his opponent's fighting spirit and character. Ohma pronounces to Tooth and Wakatsuki that he will be the one to win the left block. Tooth takes Ohma out, expressing that his next adversary is Rayan and that he will lose. Ohma trains by punching the mountainside until the surface in front of him is cracked and falling apart. Ohma is upset with apparitions of Nico showing up before him, making him flounder. Nico calls attention to him that Ohma questions himself, and for that reason he loses readiness. Ohma shouts he can't believe the methods instructed by somebody that is frail and kicked the bucket. Nico concurs that with his style, Ohma may not overcome Rayan. Cosmo is matched against Akoya, not set in stone to abstain from Imai's hooking and strangleholds, yet Imai stands upstanding with his clenched hands up, apparently getting away from his reflexive catching style. Imai strikes Akoya in the leg, striking him with the force of a nagging punch. Once more, Imai seeks after, getting a touch from Okoya that breaks the skin on his arm. Imai once more backs away when Okoya finally takes the initiative. Ryo makes sense of how this kind of conduct in a match can demolish an organization's standing. Hiyama educates Okoya to take a position like Tooth's, foreseeing all of Imai's developments, and having Okoya provide Imai with a whirlwind of breaking blows. Hiyama will probably leisurely deny Imai of his dexterity. As Okoya goes to convey a completing blow, Imai grips into Okoya's arm and maneuvers him into a three-sided gag. Okoya actually blocks Imai's thigh from removing his aviation root with his clench hand. Okoya had intended to really convey a catastrophe for Imai's stomach, which is the reason he was apparently ready to fight off Imai's stranglehold. Akira goes up against Hiyama behind the stage about her educating Okoya. Akira had Inaba take out her gatekeepers so he and Dudley could get in. He makes sense of that he had been capturing her and Okoya's radio transmission. He presses for Hiyama and Okoya to resign as their standing is on the line. In the meantime, Cosmo clasps onto Okoya's neck from behind, choking him without safeguard. Over the radio, Okoya informs Hiyama that this was the last time. His hold blasts through Imai's arm at his neck. Okoya's attacks become dirtier, holding back nothing and bidding Imai over his knee. Hiyama makes sense that she isn't educating Okoya on the most proficient method to win, no matter who gets hurt or how the battle ends. Okoya bites off a part of Imai's thigh, biting it up and letting it out. Imai is shaking wildly out of fear. Okoya is no ordinary adversary. Okoya sees Imai as a weak person that should be vanquished. The match turns out to be to a lesser degree a battle, and freely tormenting Imai, sticking his thumb between Imai's ribs and causing as much agony as possible. Imai passes out mid-torment, just to be woken up by a hit to his ribs. The official can't stop this, even as the group recoils away in disdain. Nobody is sufficiently able to go against Okoya. Dudley undermines Hiyama to end the battle, however she declines, saying Imai will pass on, assuming that she attempts to mediate at this point. Akira shows an absence of want to end the match, accepting that Imai isn't done, yet, regardless of the chances being self-evident. He inquires as to whether he truly thought he was a decent individual to begin with. Subsequently, he hauled Imai into the hidden world when he had a splendid future in front of him. Imai falls limp, incapable to relate the number of ribs Okoya has broken. In his deficiency of awareness once more, Imai is visited by his lord, Mitsuyo Kureishi. Mitsuyo asks him about his drive for battle, to which Imai answers happily with a grin that he could do without losing, appreciates battling, and needs to outperform Mitsuyo sometime in the not-so-distant future. Mitsuyo confirms that Imai won't ever outperform him like one or the other. He isn't Imai's gatekeeper. With that, Imai tracks down Drive and chomps Okoya, pointing out an assault on Okoya's lower area. This makes Okoya escape, reclaimed by Imai's unexpected change. Imai has understood that he is battling for his life, and there are no ethics to how he gets by. He works hard to win. Imai is currently a barrel of clenched hands, yet is raised starting from the earliest stage, his throat, by Okoya. Imai gets away from the grasp by kicking Okoya in the face, blinding him in one eye. He then slips behind Okoya to bring him into a python hold. In an effort to knock Imai off, Okoya hits Imai into the wall. When tossed to the ground, Imai fakes fixed status to trap Okoya in another hook. As a response, Okoya repeatedly punches Imai in the ribs. This is pointless because Imai never falters and ultimately defeats Okoya. Akira goes up against Okoya by saying if not for his lethal tendencies, he would have crushed Imai without mistake. Imai says thanks to Okoya for assisting him with understanding his actual drive to battle. Okoya simply overlooks them and leaves. Kazuo fears Ohma's match as it approaches. Ohma comes over, inquiring as to why he is outside. Kazuo admits that he is sickened with himself for being so stressed over himself when Ohma is the person who battles. Ario and Rayan approach. There is an impressive distance between them. Ario makes sense of the award of Ohma winning is Kazuo's child, Kenzo's life. Having no idea why his son is involved, Kazuo is speechless. Rayan slams Kazuo and says that he must wish his filthy son would just die. Ohma guarantees Kazuo that he won't allow Kenzo to die during the battle. Kazuo acknowledges that Rayan's claims about his son are accurate. He trusts in Ohma about his pride for Kenzo, however found his child was clever to the point that he would lead trials. For example, reproducing the human mind from the cells of a rodent, accepting people required development. He saw a beast in his child. From that point forward, Kenzo quit leaving his room altogether. He was unable to face his son once more. His better half, Kenzo's mom, left them not long after that. Kazuo concedes to being a disappointment as a dad, yet is faithful to safeguarding his child and asks Ohma to dominate this game. Ario wants Carla's attention by killing Ohma. The Kura family bombed Kazuo's home, uncovering Kenzo, had built up the whole of its arrangement to be bomb-safe. They intend to catch Kenzo. Rayan is quick to swing. Ohma avoids it and fights back by punching Rayan in the jaw. He handles one more blow right in front of Rayan prior to starting swimming, swallowing on Rayan's protection. Ohma has improved incredibly since his most memorable battle, yet it doesn't keep Rayan from thumping him off his feet. Because of the Kura blood in Rayan's veins, he can support an extraordinary measure of harm with practically no of it thwarting his exhibition. In an effort to get Ohma to change, Rayan is eager to see him use advance. Rayan tracks down ease in diverting Ohma's strategies. Expressing out loud, he realizes Ohma presently can't seem to dominate any of them. Rayan takes Ohma by the hair and pulverizes him like Ohma is only a ragdoll, crushing his face into the ground until it breaks around them. Ohma finds the Nico style doesn't work for him by any means, and uses advance to take on Rayan. Rayan is overpowered by the sheer leap and option for Ohma. Hajime inquires as to whether he has seen it as well. The cost advance takes on Ohma's body, as he speeds up his heart to such levels it makes his power support. Kazuo madly attempts to contact his child, trusting Kenzo can get away so Ohma can toss the game. Be that as it may, Kenzo is as of now being taken into the Kura family's authority. At the point when Kazuo gets back to the ring, he sees Ohma has been immobilized on the ground. Kiryu yells at Ohma to stand up once more. Kazuo asks for Ohma to not pass on, understanding that he is currently not just going to lose his child and enthusiastic hood, yet Ohma's life will be lost to no end. Ohma is visited by Nico, who advises him to become more grounded without utilizing advance. Kazuo stoops, shouting Ohma resembles a legend to him. Ohma gradually ascends to his feet once more, and uses what Nico alluded to as his inward strategies to battle Rayan. Rayan figures out how to toss Ohma over his head when trapped in a wrestling hold. Ohma is now using his own version of Nico's style, which is different from what Nico taught him. A ghost of Nico offers his approval to Ohma to carry on. Kazuo yells that Rayan is at the same disadvantage as Ohma because he can no longer use his technique. This is what Ohma uses to bring Rayan down, beating him so badly that the referee has to take him out. The crowd has no words. Kazuo races into the ring, embracing a horrendous Ohma in his triumph. Ohma denies any consideration and advises Kazuo to call his child. Kiryu is incensed that Ohma has taken up Nico's style, needing Ohma to be a horrendous god, similarly as Kiryu sees him to be. Different warriors that know who Nico is views Ohma as a decent follower. In the meantime, Kazuo apologizes to Ario. Ario tries to intimidate Kazuo by saying that Kazuo's life is in his hands, but Kazuo says that the Kure family will be destroyed if he does anything. He flaunts that he is consequently transferring their discussion so that assuming Ario conflicted with his promise, everybody would be aware. Turns out Ario had previously revoked the death request of Kenzo before Kazuo came in, waving him off that he was only playing with him. Ario tracks down a line from Kazuo to Metsudo. Carla strips bare in an announcement that Ohma is her significant other since he crushed Rayan. She runs off looking, not entirely set in stone to have his kid. Kazuo at long calls Kenzo. At the point when Kazuo sees Ohma is there, he expresses gratitude toward him for saving Kenzo and says that he is happy Ohma survived the ordeal. Ohma consoles him and tells him that a man shouldn't cry and that they ought to go grab a bite to eat. The end. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, and click the bell icon to get new anime recaps.